Hello, dear friends. Another stormy week has come and go. More crazy operations and psychological agendas continue to try to fool us. Opinion piece. New gold coin from Zimbabwe. Goes on sale from 25th July. China and Russia announce new world currency. China's ancient Buddhist treasure returned to China. European leader in quantum computing to help in the crisis. Let's start. Zimbabwe's central bank has unveiled the first images of its new 22-karat gold coin that it hopes will help solve its inflation problem and ease its citizens' thirst for dollars. The coin will be available to the public from Monday, July 25th, the Southern African nation's central bank said on Friday. The 22-karat coins, each weighing 1 troy ounce, 31.1 grams, and individually numbered, have been named the Smoke That Thunders, after Victoria Falls, Africa's largest waterfall. It will be sold through banks from Monday at the prevailing international price for gold. The coin, whose market value on Friday was $1,725, will be convertible into cash and can be traded locally and internationally. In terms of ownership, the buyer must take physical possession of the coin and will be issued a bearer certificate of ownership. The purchaser of holder of the coin may choose to place it in the custody of bankers of their choice, in which case a safe custody certificate or receipt will also be issued. The currency will have the status of a liquid asset. It is to say, it can be easily converted into cash and will be tradable locally and internationally. The currency can also be used for transactional purposes. The currency can be used as collateral for loans and credit facilities. At the request of the holder, the bank will repurchase the currency. It is the latest in a series of efforts by the authorities to stem the slide in the Zimbabwean dollar that has pushed inflation to almost 200%. The government hopes it will break the demand for dollars. Rising prices have prompted calls from state workers, including teachers and nurses, to be paid in US currency. The 22-karat coin will be sold at an international spot bullion price, including a 5% charge to cover production and delivery costs. Gold was trading at 1,724.12 an ounce in London on Friday. Once purchased from banks and authorized dealers, the currency must be held for at least 180 days, in line with the need to promote the savings culture in the country, the central bank said in a statement. New global currency. China and Russia officially announced a new world reserve currency, but no one has noticed and no one seems to care. Russia and China are strengthening their economic ties amid continued Western sanctions against Russia as a result of the war in Ukraine. However, what may surprise some people is that Russia and the BRICS countries, including Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, are officially working on their own new global reserve currency, based on a basket of currencies from these countries. Since Russia has been cut off from the SWIFT system, it is partnering with China and the BRICS nations to develop reliable alternative mechanisms for international payments, in order to reduce dependence on the Western financial system, including the diversion of trade to China and India. In fact, trade between Russia and the BRICS countries increased by 38% and reached $45 billion in the first 3 months of the year, says a report. Meanwhile, Russia crude oil sales to China reached record highs during the spring of this year, overtaking Saudi Arabia as China's top oil supplier. The dollarization has been a priority for Russia and China since 2014, when they began expanding economic cooperation following Moscow's estrangement from the West over the annexation of Crimea. Replacing the dollar in trade deals became a necessity to circumvent US sanctions against Russia. As the economic years turn behind the scenes, China is also becoming increasingly wary of Taiwan. The country has sent fighter jets into Taiwan's self-declared air defense identification zone many times in recent months. According to CNN, and the idea of a no-fly zone over Taiwan was recently alluded to ahead of a planned visit by Nancy Pelosi. Buddhist treasure. 1,000-year-old Buddhist treasure stolen from China could soon be repatriated. A 1,000-year-old statue of a monk from southeast China, stolen in 1995, was found in the Netherlands 20 years later. The process to return it to China has been lengthy, and as there has been international coordination to get it. The valuable statue is of a monk named Thang Gong. He was born in the Northern Song dynasty more than 1,000 years ago. He was a physician and was known for his benevolence. Thang Gong converted to Buddhism, practiced it with devotion, and became a monk. He died at the age of 37 and is estimated to have died between 1022 and 1155. Medical images from a CT scan show Thang Gong's body without all internal organs, sitting inside the gold-legged statue. Locals carved his image into a statue and venerated him as a Grand Master Thang Gong in Puthao Hall in Yangchun Village, Fujian Province. But since the CCP came to power, many of these Buddhist treasures have been destroyed or stolen and shipped out of the country. Spain. Up to 15 provinces will be on high temperature alert this Monday, with temperatures reaching 45 degrees Celsius in Murcia and 42 in Huelva. The price of electricity rises 2% this Monday and remains above 250 euros for the third consecutive day. 8 out of 10 Spaniards are worried about the cost of their electricity bill. The number of bank branches in Spain continues to shrink. Algeria restores gas supplies to Spain. Spain is well placed to help supply gas to the European Union. Numerous forest fires are active in Spain. Evacuations are accelerated due to advancing wildfires. The Junta de Castilla-León points to the hand of man as the cause of the fires in Ávila, Burgos and Zamora. The fire continues to advance in Tenerife, while it is dying down on the mainland. Black Week in Spain, with fires that have devastated 122,000 hectares. Red alert in Cádiz and Córdoba, with temperatures reaching 45 degrees. The rise in interest rates will lead to a loss of purchasing power and an economic slowdown. The rise in interest rates will make mortgages more expensive and further squeeze families. Catalonia suffers its worst year since 2012 with 6,543 hectares burnt. Transparency urges disclosure of how much each member of the government spends on bodyguards on private trips. The Guardia Civil rescues a Spanish minor kidnapped by a jihadist in Belgium. 8 years in prison for 3 accused of smuggling migrants into Melilla, charging €8,000 per vehicle. Americas. California wildfire emergency in Yosemite National Park. Pope arrives in Canada to apologize for abuse of indigenous children in Catholic boarding schools. Strong dollar rattles much of Latin America's economy. Argentina carries out price control operations in the country's supermarkets. Poverty in Ecuador falls to 25%, 7 points lower than a year ago. Thousands of plastic bottles leave the Galapagos Islands to become clothes. The Mexican Telephone Workers Union reaches an agreement to suspend the strike. López Obrador defends the hiring of Cuban doctors. Cuba's electricity company expects power cuts during the day. Cuba's president charges against demonstrations over blackouts. Florida governor urges investors not to fall for Cuba scam, in quotes. Peru's vice president hints that she would take over the presidency if Castillo is removed. Thousands of schools will remain closed in Panama despite the start of dialogue. President Chavez expresses his solidarity with Panama over the social clashes. NGOs call for a thorough investigation into the deaths in a police operation in Rio. Europe. European quantum computing leader IQM raises €128 million to help fight the crisis. In the future, quantum computing may help solve complex problems faster than classical computers in all areas, such as predicting financial markets. The European Central Bank scares about inflation with its latest measures. The ECB admits that inflation is higher and more persistent than it had expected. France imposes water restrictions in 88 French departments due to drought. The Portuguese government asks the Algarve tourism sector to reduce water consumption. Heatwave spreads in Italy with 19 cities on red alert. Fires raging out of control on the Greek island of Lesbos and in Dadia National Park. Slovenia mobilizes 2,000 troops to fight severe fires. Thousands of hectares of crops lost in Europe due to drought and heatwave. Delays at the Dover border crossing for ferries linking the UK with France in Calais. More than 500 migrants rescued in the Mediterranean in 24 hours. Orbán defends an unmixed Hungarian race. Ukraine. Normality reigns on the street of Kiev, far from the front line of the war. Russia focuses its efforts on the Donetsk region and attacks the port of Odessa. Russia claims its rockets destroyed military infrastructure in Odessa. Ukraine denounces a Russian attack on the port of Odessa, a key grain export port. 5 months of Russian military campaign in Ukraine with no victor in sight. Russian cosmonauts will fly to the International Space Station on 3 US Crew Dragon spacecraft. Africa. The African Union welcomes the agreement between Moscow and Kiev to export grain. Tunisia votes on Monday on a new constitution in its first ever referendum. Protests in Tunisia against the president's controversial constitutional referendum. The silos in the port of Beirut are in danger of collapse due to a fire inside them. Asia. China on red alert amid extreme heat wave. Hong Kong recorded its third hottest day since records began. China plans to use the moon for asteroid protection. The European Union calls on the new Sri Lankan government to guarantee individual rights. Resistance against the Taliban is back in Afghanistan. Led by the Massoud family, resistance against the Taliban is being organized in the rebel province of Panjshir. Commander Hamad Shah first drove the Soviets out of this mountainous territory, and then the Taliban in the 80s and 2000s. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.